Racism, betrayal, and power plays. This is the story of one of the greatest sitcoms from the 90s. Let's go behind the scenes of the chaotic production of Roseanne! This is 1988. Stand-up comedian Roseanne Barr was at her peak. She was so successful she was given the main part in a sitcom named after her, a not-so-rare practice at the time. However, behind the scenes, Roseanne was an utter mess. Trouble began as early as the pilot. Actually, Roseanne Barr is mainly a stage comedian. She hates shooting for the screen. When executive producers Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner oversaw the pilot editing, Roseanne struck for the first time.
She had her agent call to say that unless we fired 7 people, the director, the head writer, that she was going to leave the show, thinking that they could leverage the ABC guy over us. So I just said, well, tell her goodbye. Bye-bye. And the ABC guy backed. So she came back, obviously.
Roseanne Barr finally stayed on the show, still called Life and Stuff at the time. Unfortunately, trouble was brewing. The star started having delusion of grandeur. She demanded the name of the show to be changed into Roseanne and wanted to be credited as creator. But did she really deserve such a credit?
How much of a role did Roseanne play in the development of the show?
None.
In fact, the Roseanne pitch was coined by screenwriter Matt Williams. Williams got inspired from his own childhood and wished to write a sitcom about a working-class family. He therefore rejected Roseanne as a title because it was focused on one character instead of the whole family. And yet, the actress demanded the sitcom to be named after her. The crew found a compromise. Williams retained his credit as sole creator, and Roseanne Barr got her name at the end credits, based upon a character created by Roseanne Barr. Again, Roseanne still held a grudge. She still claims today that Williams stole her ideas from her comedy routine and had robbed her from the created by credit. However, Williams' script was ordered by Carsey and Werner even before Barr's involvement. Moreover, WGA rules said that the title of creator was only granted to pilot writers, not stand-up comedians, even if the pilot was inspired by their comedy act. The got confirmed in 1990 when 3 writers, including Williams, were deemed creators of Home Improvement. Tim Allen's name was not among them, although his character in the show was based on one of his acts, just like Roseanne's. During the 13th episode, Matt Williams wrote a line where Roseanne tells her husband Dan, "You are my equal in bed, but that's it." And then, all hell broke loose. Roseanne argued her character would never utter such a line and refused to shoot the scene. The situation escalated, and Roseanne ordered Williams' head on a platter, and got her way. Matt Williams got fired, and Roseanne ended up sole captain on board. Although to be fair, Williams also tried to fire her when she successfully banned producers from the set. Carsey and Werner started losing sleep, especially about one of Roseanne's weird habits. When she didn't like a crew member, she would add his or her name on a list, vowing to fire this person if the show became number 1 in the ratings. Indeed, she considered that if the show was number 1, she could do whatever she wanted. At the end of season 1, Roseanne became number 1 for real. Well, no actually, it was number 2 after The Cosby Show, but Barr still fired anyone she didn't like. Meanwhile, Carsey and Werner were trying to fire Roseanne again and again, to no avail. At the same time, Roseanne Barr had outrageous whims, departed in the middle of a shoot. She threatened the wardrobe guy with scissors. The writer's turnover couldn't have been higher. In the DVD commentaries, Roseanne Barr says, "I never keep writers for more than 2 seasons. By then, you've gotten the very best out of them." Roseanne indeed fired Chuck Lorre, Penelope Spheeris, Amy Sherman Palladino, and Joss Whedon. Not her brightest decisions. Chuck Lorre told how much the writing room was a tough yet formative experience.
We worked 17-hour days, 6 days a week for a couple of years. You go home and the sun's coming up. It was nuts. It was miserable, but it was a great place to learn, get real. It informed Grace Under Fire.
We can add that during season 6, writers had to wear numbered t-shirts, and Barr would call them by their number instead of their names. However, one writer was spared, Tom Arnold, also a recurring actor of the show. He was Roseanne Barr's first choice to play Dan before producers moved on to a more experienced actor, aka John Goodman. The writers, however, were not happy with Arnold. he had been hired by Barr to support her in the writer's room. Writer Norma Stafford Wheeler said, "We all thought he was 100% talent-free. Barr was very upset because she thought we didn't respect her choices. And it's like, well, no, we just don't respect this choice." Jeff Harris, the new showrunner who had replaced Williams, was not happy either with Arnold's writing skills and tried to fire him. Arnold replied, "This is not a democracy, this is a queendom." Indeed, Roseanne Barr refused to fire Arnold, and Jeff Harris ended up resigning sometime later. As early as the first season, Arnold tried to hit on Laurie Metcalf, who played Roseanne's sister, but Roseanne Barr didn't like it. She therefore forbade Arnold to date any actress on the show. Arnold was a brave man. Life was not easy with Roseanne Barr, who sometimes acted in a very strange way. For instance, she sang the national anthem during a football game, although her singing was, well... After this peculiar display, the animated children's spin-off, Little Rosie, was cancelled. Shocker. In a nearby studio, Seinfeld was being shot. One day, Julia Louis-Dreyfus parked her car by mistake in Tom Arnold's parking spot. And then, the shit hit the fan. Dreyfus fixed the problem the next day, but Roseanne and Arnold went out of control. They stuck a picture of a bottom to her windshield and painted a C word on it with soap. Roseanne even brought it up during the David Letterman show.
When you park in somebody else's space and they come out and write a nasty note on your car, you should go, "It wasn't nice of you to write this nasty note, but you know what? I am sorry that I parked in your space," right?
Yeah, right.
In a word, the set was no bed of roses, and things continued to go to hell. In 1991, Roseanne got as far as firing Geraldine, her own sister. Geraldine was furious and claimed that Roseanne promised her half of her earnings because she was the co-creator of her character, plus her manager. She initiated a $70.3 million lawsuit due to breach of contract, but her case was dismissed. In 1993, when season 5 ended, Leslie Goranson, who played Becky, Roseanne's elder daughter, quit the show to focus on her education. In season 6, she was replaced by the young Sarah Chalke, who will later be known as Elliot from Scrubs and Beth from Rick and Morty. Meanwhile, Roseanne and Tom got along like a house on fire and opened a diner together, which closed 2 years later because they filed for divorce. With her usual sweetness, Roseanne fired her ex-husband, cut all of his credit cards, and filed a restraining order. On top of it all, she accused him of domestic violence. 3 days later, however, she admitted she had accused him wrongly and dropped the charges.
Look, if I wanted this kind of abuse, I'd be directing the Roseanne Barr show.
But if you think it was over between Roseanne and Tom, think again. I will come back to that later. When season 7 ended, ta-da! Leslie Goranson asked to come back on Roseanne. That's why Sarah Chalke left the show and Goranson took over Becky's part. But Goranson realized she had too much schoolwork and missed several episodes. So, during season 8, Goranson and Chalke both played Becky, which was utterly bizarre. Goranson realized the situation was stupid and chose to leave the show, giving Becky's part to Sarah Chalke for season 9. I think you got it by now. For the sake of your mental health, do not argue with Roseanne Barr.
Don't get too involved with what's going on stage. Kind of stay clear of it. I mean, we had public fights and yelling matches. We had a new showrunner, I think, every season. And just to kind of get the setup, get it done, and get the hell out. Roseanne was always very courteous to me, you know, I'm respectful.
At this moment, Disney had bought ABC and ordered all of the ABC showrunners to make a Disney World episode. Obviously, Roseanne told them to kiss her ass. But this time, Roseanne wasn't fighting a producer or her ex-husband, she was fighting Disney. And that wasn't an even fight either. Roseanne, for once, had to swallow her pride and shoot a Disney World episode. This storyline doesn't even make sense because the Connors obviously can't afford going to Disney World. This misfortune angered Roseanne Barr even more, until the levee broke. When season 8 was ending, John Goodman, who had played Roseanne's husband from the outset, had another loud argument with her and slammed the door. It was a complete disaster. How could Roseanne go on without the husband being there? To reassure viewers and keep the goose from golden eggs, Ted Hubbard, ABC chairman, argued that Dan was not essential to the show anyway. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. And from then on, the show went from bad to worse. In the season 8 finale, Dan broke up with Roseanne and Goodman was finally allowed to leave. After some bargaining, Goodman accepted to come back for a final season, but only half of it. That's when the screenwriters jumped the shark. To justify Dan's absence in one episode because he had to see his mother, for instance, why not? But cheating on Roseanne was really out of character. The cherry on top was the finale. It revealed that all of season 9 was actually imagined by Roseanne. Believe it or not, Dan had been dead since season 8. However, when Roseanne came back 20 years later for a 10th season, Dan was still alive! Obviously, the show didn't give a damn about logic or chronology. And if you think that after 20 years it's all water under the bridge, think again. Indeed, during season 10, the musical chairs were back. Leslie Garrison took on Becky's role once again. A complete nonsense, but what a laugh.
Look at us. We could be the same person. I mean, it is like looking in the mirror before I put my makeup on.
However, Roseanne's revival was frowned upon. The Hollywood Reporter, for instance, published a review that settled scores. The journalist attacked Roseanne Barr, saying she was, and I quote, no longer a feminist pacifist voice for the working folks, but a far-right Trump-loving troll. But Roseanne Barr has known Donald Trump personally for 30 years, and saw how he treated women. Roseanne Barr made $200 million off Roseanne Connor, so I'm a little disappointed she doesn't have her back. And guess who wrote the review? Revenge is a dish best served cold. But that's not the end of it. Arnold got in touch with Roseanne and advised her not to use Twitter because, I quote, it would be dangerous for her. And what was Roseanne's answer? If only she had known. Because when season 11 premiere aired,
autopsy found that it wasn't a heart attack. Roseanne OD'd on opioids.
What the heck happened? Let's go back in time. The year is 2015. Marty McFly discovers the 18th sequel of Jaws, and WikiLeaks reveals the US administration has spied on French presidents for years. Barack Obama did not deny the facts, but claimed it was over. 3 years later, the story surfaced again, and a Twitter user gossiped about Valerie Jarrett, one of Obama's closest black advisors. Her skin color matters here. Jarrett was allegedly an accomplice in spying on the French presidents. Also, some users mentioned she was allegedly involved in an Iranian deal and accused her of anti-Semitism. Roseanne Barr stumbled upon the discussion and tweeted about Jarrett. I quote, Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby. Roseanne quickly deleted her tweet, but too late. Twitter was on fire, and Barr was called out for being a racist. If her defense seems reasonable at first, it quickly became less reasonable.
I thought the was white!
Roseanne Barr was then fired and the sitcom changed its name. The actress tried to justify herself. Once she said she was fired because she supported Donald Trump, an unpopular gesture in Hollywood at the time. Another time she claimed Hollywood was anti-Semitic and fired her because she supported Israel. When her character died in the pilot of The Connors, she tweeted, I ain't dead. She spat on Sarah Gilbert, her fellow partner on the show, and also one of the first who publicly criticized her tweet. I quote, she destroyed the show and my life with that tweet. She will never get enough until she consumes my liver with a fine Chianti. Roseanne Barr's firing was ordered by an NBC executive, Channing Dungey. Surprisingly, Dungey resigned some weeks later. Officially, it was because Disney had bought Fox. Unofficially, the audience disapproved of her decision. The ratings dropped, and Dungey was forced to resign. Don't worry about Dungey, she still had a pretty good career, but it's possible she paid a big part of the bill at the time. Truth be told, Roseanne Barr was ill. She'd been depressed and suicidal for years, and her ambient consumption had gone through the roof. That may explain the cursed tweet, though. She might have written it under the influence. In 1994, during season 6, she revealed she had a multiple personality disorder. Her toxic behavior may have been a result of MPD. Tom Arnold said that when he was married to Roseanne, she had 27 different personalities, and only 2 were in love with him. But the fall of Roseanne Barr also revealed a lot of things about Hollywood. As a matter of fact, most writer and crew members condemned how the network handled the crisis. However, as far as the actors were concerned, mum was the word. As the Hollywood Reporter explained, the actors earned a big package after Roseanne cancellation, but neither did the writers nor the crew. Hollywood, you ruthless world. Netflix didn't even blink when it took a jab at Roseanne, tweeting, "Reminder, One Day at a Time is a sitcom about a tight-knit working-class family that tackles extremely topical social issues in a smart and innovative way. You know, if you're suddenly looking for a show like that." This was the story of Roseanne's chaotic production.